What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be sharing with you what I watched during the month of April. Now, at the time of this recording, it is currently April 24th, so obviously still a few days left in the month of April. But I had the time to record today, so I figured why not? I'll probably still watch some more movies in April, but they're obviously not going to be in this video. So I like making these kinds of videos because it gives me an opportunity to kind of give some mini reviews and talk about movies that I normally wouldn't get an opportunity to talk about otherwise. So yeah, I mean, let me know in the comments which one of these have you seen? What have you been watching recently? Did you enjoy these movies? Do you agree with my opinion on them? Do you disagree? Yeah, so let's get right into it. I got my Letterboxd open up right here. You can follow me on Letterboxd, by the way. Link in the description. So let me go ahead and pop the screen up right here. Starting things off on April 2nd, I watched Barbarian. This was one of my favorite movies of that year, and upon rewatch, it still holds up. It still holds up. Now, I did give it 5 stars the first time I watched it, and I gave it 5 stars again. It really is great. That's not to say that it's a perfect film. I do think it has its weaknesses, especially towards the end. If you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about. It has this campiness to it, this over-the-top cheesiness that goes a little too far in my opinion, but still doesn't take away from the entirety of the film. Doesn't take away from the great acting by Georgina Campbell, Justin Long, Bill Skarsgård, who was perfect choice to play his character. The marketing or the casting and the marketing kind of like misdirected the audience kind of by casting Bill Skarsgård. I think, he was fresh off playing Pennywise in the It franchise. So, of course, the audience sees him as this villain, evil presence, if you will. So then coming into Barbarian, at the beginning of the film, you really don't know where he stands. You think he's this bad guy, but then he is acting like a good guy, but he's a little weird, so he might be the bad guy. So there's this constant like misdirection and uneasiness that you feel as the audience. And I really love the way that this film does that, and the way that it's shot and just builds tension and this sense of like uneasiness and an unsettling movie, for sure. So yeah, obviously recommend Barbarian if you haven't seen it. Give it 5 stars. And I guess I was on a horror kick or something because I watched My Bloody Valentine shortly after, and probably not the best time to watch My Bloody Valentine, a movie that takes place on Valentine's Day in April. I don't know. I just felt like watching it, I guess. Which I also don't get why people watch this on Valentine's Day. Like, it's a day of love, and you're watching a slasher. I mean, I get it. I know why. Obviously, it's a Valentine's Day movie. I digress. Whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. But I watched the uncut version. I don't know the difference from the other version. More gore, I guess. Bloodier kills. I'm not sure. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a decent 80s slasher. It doesn't make like my favorite slasher list or anything like that, but I did appreciate how this movie actually took some time to let you sit with the characters and watch them sort of evolve and communicate, have dialogue between them. Usually slashers, especially early 80s, they're just there to be killed. No personality, nothing that makes them stand out whatsoever. It's just walk alone in this dark room and they're going to get killed. But with this movie, it spends a little more time on the characters, so I can at least appreciate that. And I like that whole like small town vibe to it, this sense of isolation where obviously you can leave the town, but it's just like this small community that's being tortured by this serial killer. So yeah, enjoyed that part. Another movie I watched this month, Ernest Goes to Camp. So I actually recently inherited like a bunch of DVDs. I received about 5 tubs filled with DVDs, and I just picked out a few that I wanted and sold the rest. And one of the DVDs that I kept was a triple pack of 3 Ernest movies. Now, I'll be honest, I saw a few Ernest movies growing up, but I didn't like fully grow up with them. Like it wasn't a huge part of my childhood. Obviously, it was geared towards like a younger audience at the time, late 80s. Not really for me as an adult, but you know, uh, it was fine, I guess. Next watch was a tough watch, to say the least. And I watched the Arrow version of The Last House on the Left, the remake. I have not seen the original. And on a technical level, this movie is extremely well shot, well directed. Cinematography is beautiful. Of course, the acting, everything great. Subject matter, a little tough, hard to watch, very depressing movie. There's tough scenes that I don't really want to get into right now on YouTube, but there's some difficult scenes to watch. I mean, some of it felt too real. I don't know if I'll be rewatching this anytime soon, but I mean, it definitely achieves what it set out to do, which I believe is to just obviously tell a revenge tale, make the audience feel uncomfortable. And then on the other side of the spectrum, the next day I watched Paddington, a bit of a palate cleanser there. This is a movie that is guaranteed to put a smile on your face. Just a warm, family-friendly, feel-good movie. Paddington. Yes. Have not seen part 2. Another DVD that I inherited, part of that big collection one of the movies I picked out from the big collection was M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening. And in hindsight, 2 stars, I was being generous. I wasn't a fan. Mark Wahlberg's worst movie, if I can recall correctly. I'm sure I'm forgetting another bad one in there, but this is probably one of my least favorite of his. One of my least favorite M. Night movies as well. I mean, the premise is interesting enough. This invisible, mysterious entity that makes you go crazy and self-harm. I mean, that sounds like it could be a good movie, but I don't know. Just wasn't executed in the best way, I think. But what do I know? That's just my opinion. Next movie I saw was Witness for the Prosecution, which I did give a high rating to, obviously, 4.5 stars. This is a movie directed by Billy Wilder, who, with every movie I see from Wilder, he quickly jumps up in my favorite directors. Like, he definitely is in my top 10 now. I mean, he has great movies from The Apartment, Some Like It Hot, Double Indemnity. Ace in the Hole was good, but it wasn't like, it didn't blow me away or anything. But Witness for the Prosecution, another banger. I mean, Wilder is one of the best when it comes to just screenplays, tight dialogue, and Charles Laughton deserves all the credit for his performance in this one. I mean, he's all in. I really bought into his performance. And this is like a 50s courtroom drama, black and white. I mean, that sounds like it could be boring, but it's really not. I was engaged the whole time. Yeah. If you haven't seen Witness for the Prosecution, I would recommend it. Definitely check that one out. Bride of Frankenstein. I mean, they don't show the bride until the last, 10 minutes, if that. Just was expecting a little, something a little different. Definitely prefer Frankenstein. I watched The Omen from 1976 with the intention of watching the first Omen shortly thereafter, which has not happened yet. But I think I did watch this one maybe many years ago, but I don't remember much, so I just counted it as a first time watch. I gave it 3 stars, which to me 3 stars is good. Like, it's a good movie. If you got 3 stars, you're, not bad. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's characters make a lot of dumb decisions, but aside from that, I mean, it does have this like creepy atmosphere. I'll be honest, I don't have too much to say about The Omen. It's like, it was good, and then that's it. Like, I want to move on with my life. Gun Crazy. This one was good. This was a recommendation from my buddy Alex, and this was part of that 50s stream that I did recently, favorites of the 50s. And Alex recommended this one to me, like I said, and great pick. I really enjoyed it. Gun Crazy, if you haven't seen it, it's basically about this guy who is on the cover here, the poster, and he's gifted a gun really early on in his life. So he develops this hobby of shooting guns, gets into some trouble as a youth for shooting his gun. And as he gets older, he still maintains his hobby, but he's on the straight and narrow. He gets his life together. He's a good member of society. He's a law-abiding citizen until he meets this girl who is also a gun enthusiast, but she has some more malicious intents. She prefers to use her skills, her shooting skills, for bad rather than good. And she has this negative influence on him where he starts to follow her lead and go into this like darker side, and starts making these bad decisions, starts committing crimes, really. And it's essentially a Bonnie and Clyde story. They commit crimes, they go on a run, being chased by the law. And it gets pretty dark. It gets pretty dark there at some point. So definitely check out Gun Crazy. Another recommendation from that 50 stream, this Ozu film, Good Morning. And this is actually on Criterion. This was a recommendation by John or Plaid X2. Simple premise. Two young boys, want a television set. They don't have a TV, so they're always going to their neighbors to watch TV. And so they ask their parents for one, and they refuse. So in retaliation, they decide to silent protest. So they refuse to say any words. They don't talk whatsoever until their parents buy them a television set. And that's basically the extent of the story. So I what I liked about it was, I thought it was an interesting look at 50s Japanese family life, the everyday life of this Japanese community, their interactions with each other, neighborly conversations. So I enjoyed that aspect. Overall, it was just a little bit uneventful for my taste. It has some interesting commentary, still relevant today. Consumerism, this obsession with new technology, and just really relevant themes. But I don't know. It's just not one that I'm going to be rushing to revisit or recommend. But I'm glad I watched it. Solid film. Probably a one-time watch, though. All right, so this is actually the first movie that I've seen in theaters for the month, and that's Civil War, an A24 film, a bigger budget A24 film, directed by Alex Garland. And Alex Garland is a director that he's more hit than miss for me. Love Ex Machina, really enjoy Annihilation. Men did not like that movie, but Civil War kind of brought him back up for me. This is a movie that you have to watch in theaters. I mean, some of the shots the scenery, the sound design is just like, this movie was made to be seen in theaters. But aside from that, I mean, the story itself follows these journalists who travel across this war-torn country trying to get the money shot. I mean, the big story, the headlines, and they'll do whatever it takes. And it's really dark. It's gripping. It's an intense story, and it just shows the harsh realities and the brutality of what the world does face today and can face and will continue to face. It's really crazy, and yeah, not an easy watch. It can be depressing. I can't say like go watch it now, but just definitely watch in theaters and form your own opinion for sure. This next movie I gave 3.5 stars. I don't think I've been talking about the ratings. Oops. Anyways, you could see them on screen. I gave 3.5 stars. I did want to watch this in theaters, but I didn't make it, and it wasn't in theaters for too long. I actually saw this on Shudder. One thing I really liked about this movie was well, first of all, it's based around a 70s late night talk show. So speaking of watching in theaters, I actually think that watching at home probably gives you a more visceral, like authentic experience, just because if you're sitting on your couch at home, you do feel like you're watching a 70s talk show, versus in theaters, maybe not hit you the same. But I thought this was a really good movie. I was thoroughly engaged for the first 3/4 of it. At the end, kind of lost me a little bit. I wasn't a fan of some of the effects, some of the CGI, but overall, I mean, I'm glad to see David Dastmalchian. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Glad to see him kind of breaking out into these bigger roles. Definitely a unique twist or take on a possession movie, but I mean, at the end of the day, just another possession movie. To be quite honest, I just feel like those are done all the time now, so still good. A 5-star movie here, and that's a film from 2003 starring Charlize Theron and Christina Ricci. That's Monster. I know that Charlize Theron, I believe she won the Oscar for Best Actress, and well deserved. This is a very difficult watch. It's a reminder of just how cruel society can be, and really it's just a commentary on how someone's circumstances, especially early in life, it can really determine where they end up, the paths that they take. And it's just sad. It's a sad reminder just to know the inequalities that we all face. We don't all start at the same starting line. Maybe our parents were successful. Maybe we're raised in a neighborhood that you don't have to worry about a crime, versus others not so lucky. A lot of the times, unfortunately, that can really, not always, but a lot of the times it can be the determining factor of where you end up as an adult. Not justifying any of the actions, because obviously she was a serial killer. She murdered people. She hurt people. But context matters. Not justifying anybody's actions, but you can somewhat understand or see why somebody could resort or feel like they have no other options. It's just unfortunate. But yeah, this was a great movie. Don't really hear too many people talk about it, which is surprising. I think that this was really, really good. Obviously, gave it 5 stars. Next up, changing up the vibes, we got Ice Age. I actually watched this in the background. I was watching the NBA playoffs, and I just had this on in the background. So I've seen it before. I mean, just the only thing I did notice on this rewatch was the animation doesn't seem as sharp or as good as I remember it. I don't know. I know it came out in like 2002. So another recommendation from that 50 stream. This one was recommended by Corey, and that's The Big Heat. Believe this was directed by Fritz Lang and starring Glenn Ford, who is also in a fantastic Western, 3:10 to Yuma. But yeah, as far as film noirs go, this is up there. I mean, I really enjoyed this one. It was surprisingly dark, especially for a movie from the early 50s. I'm not used to seeing that. But yeah, definitely a movie that has a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of dialogue, a lot to the story. So one that requires your full attention, but well worth it, very well written. Shout out Corey for the rec. Last but not least, watched this last night on glorious 4K, and that's 1997's Face Off. And I gave this 3.5 stars. I watched this numerous times as a young child. Obviously as an adult, or even if you dissect this movie or think about it at all, it makes no sense. It's ridiculous. It's dumb, but it's so fun. Like Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage, wide-eyed, the works. I mean, if you don't know what this movie's about, John Travolta is a detective, Nicolas Cage is a terrorist, and to stop Nicolas Cage, John Travolta swaps faces with him. And the only complaint, or my main complaint I have from this movie, is that John Travolta is playing Nicolas Cage, so that means we get more of John Travolta acting like Nicolas Cage than we do of Nicolas Cage acting like Nicolas Cage. So, in other words, I just would rather have liked to see Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage. I hope that made sense. But it's good. 90s classic, 90s gem, came out in the same year as Con Air, so Nicolas Cage at the top of his game. An underrated 90s action movie. Like when you think Face Off, or when people talk about Face Off, I don't hear about the action part of it. There's a lot of gunshots, there's a lot of explosions, a lot of chases, a boat chase, helicopter chase. Like it's like action packed. Like it's underrated in that regard, I think. But yeah, that's all, guys. That's all I watched in April so far. I'll be watching more movies that unfortunately did not make the cut for this video, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. But like I said, follow me on Letterboxd. Comment down below. Do you agree with these opinions? Do you disagree? What have you been watching lately? Let me know. I'd love to continue the conversation in the comments. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.